What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham G.S. and Matthews, break down all the original content you watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. Today we're talking the January 13th, 2024 edition of the SmackDown LowDown. Megan Morant, Matt Camp in the studio, per usual, running down the big headlines from Friday's show, including recapping the Angel and Humberto tag team win. And they're just calling them Angel and Humberto now, so they were Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo once upon a time on the main roster, as well as recently in NXT. But now they're just going back to just Angel and Humberto for some reason. I don't know. But they recap their tag team win over the LWOs, Wild and Del Toro. We hear from Escobar, Angel, and Humberto backstage afterward. Angel says that it was a clean win. He clarifies because Kayla says, it was kind of a tainted win with Santos and Carlito distracting you guys, blah, blah, blah. It was a clean win. And then, Angel also cheated to win as well, not just the distraction, but he did cheat to win. They clarify it was a clean win, Angel says. Escobar says he never liked Carlito because Kayla mentions, you guys were former friends and now you guys are going at it. Santos clarifies, we were never friends and I never liked the guy. And he was not there when I needed him, and I'm not going to be there when he needs me. And his help also backfired out there, and he cost his own teammates, his stablemates in the LWO the victory. Humberto says that Escobar is a real leader, and what goes around comes around. Escobar says there are two words you need to remember, legado and familia. So I don't know if they're the new LWO. They don't really have a formal faction name yet. It would just be fine if they call themselves Legado del Fantasma. Just bring back that name. La Familia was already taken by Edge and Vicky and company back in 2008. I remember that one, so they can't call themselves La Familia, although that would be a pretty simple and fine name. That's already been taken and can't be used again, I wouldn't think. But Legado del Fantasma is perfectly fine as it is. I thought they looked great here. They look like stars. They fit together very well. Aside from the fact they took away Angel and Humberto's last names away again for whatever reason, I like this group a lot. Matt Camp says that Escobar's got the clear advantage right now, picking up wins. I know he lost last week, but he mentions that Angel and Humberto won on SmackDown this week, and they clearly have the advantage over Carlito and LWO in the meantime. And they also just have that unwavering confidence together as well. The hype up next week's WWE Women's Tag Team title match, Katana Chance, Kaden Carter defending against Isla Dawn. I almost said Isla Fire. Isla Dawn and Alba Fire in tag team action. Now, I will say this quickly. I forgot to mention this in my SmackDown audio review from yesterday, just because they weren't even on the show. They just promoted this in a graphic. It's happening next week. I like the fact that Fire and Dawn, specifically Fire, because I love Alba Fire. Isla Dawn, I don't really care much about at all. Never really cared about her in NXT UK. But I like the fact they're back in action on the show. They resurfaced a few weeks ago on SmackDown, attacking Damage Control in that 8-woman Holiday Havoc match. They never really followed up on that, but they did attack them in that match. Again, they attacked Damage Control, specifically Kabuki Warriors. No follow-up. They're back on the show next week with a fucking tag team title match out of nowhere. And listen, there's been a lot of talk this week from Tony Khan and others. Jinder Mahal doesn't deserve a World Heavyweight title match. He doesn't. Hook doesn't deserve an AEW World Championship opportunity. Maybe not, but at least he has a better record than Jinder fucking Mahal. Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, I couldn't tell you the last time they were in action on this show. Months, at least since the summer. It has been a long fucking time since we saw these two in action on this show. For them to even sniff the tag team titles is a joke. For them to get a match against the champions, maybe. Maybe they beat them, earn an opportunity, or just win a number one contenders match, I don't know. But for them to be on the show, randomly out of nowhere, getting a tag team title opportunity, I know the titles mean nothing, but that's just a fucking joke. That was really dumb. So, I wish they had at least explained why they're getting an opportunity. And we heard from here, their promo was fine. Isla Dawn said their party's going to be shot down next week, and Alba Fire said that they're the monsters that live underneath their beds, all this corny ass shit. But at least explain why they're getting the opportunity. I don't want to complain too much. It gets Alba Fire back on TV. Thank God, it's been long enough. Just disband the tag team division. Disband at least this tag team and move on. Why give them an opportunity at the titles? It makes no sense. Anyway, back in the studio, Matt Camp praises Fire and Dawn and their chances next week, and they won't win, but he praises them anyway, dating back to their time in NXT. They also recap the Bianca Belair and Bayley matchup with Bianca winning. Matt Camp says, talks about Bayley's history and the tension within Damage Control and all the losses she's racked up recently and why she needs to win the Rumble and all this other sort of stuff. They talk about that. They also replay the opening segment setting up the main event for later on in the night, but they first recap Carmelo Hayes versus Austin Theory, which ended in a referee stoppage when both men got hurt. So, no decisive winner, but it was a good match prior to that point, though. We hear from Grayson Waller backstage afterward. and he says to Kathy Kelly that his match with Grimes was tough, but he won. And remember, they didn't actually have a match. Cameron Grimes got attacked at the beginning of the show by Solo and Jimmy Uso, so the match never actually even happened. We had 2 matches that technically ended in a no contest on this show. One of them wasn't their fault. I mean, that just happens with the injuries. The opening match never actually happened due to that angle. It was more of an angle than a match. But he says the match happened and he won, which was funny. He addresses Kevin Owens, costing him the win last week at NXT New Year's Evil against Trick Williams on NXT. And he says Logan Paul is back next week. We'll be watching that segment with a very close eye, he says, when he's back on the Kevin Owens show next Friday night. The 4th best talk show in WWE, he says. And then he goes to check on Theory. So that was Grayson Waller. He also says he's undefeated on SmackDown in 2024. He lost to Trick Williams on NXT a week and a half ago. But on SmackDown, he says he's undefeated in 2024. I thought this was a funny interview from Grayson Waller. Speaking of the KO show, they hyped that up for next week with Logan Paul returning to the brand. They also recap the main event on this show with Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso falling to Orton, Styles, and Knight in a 3-on-2 handicap match. They hype up next week's contract. And they also mentioned, too, as part of that angle before I forget, they mentioned that they did that, which I didn't really think about, that could eliminate their interference from the 4-way. At least next week they might not be on the... I mean, they could very well be back next week. The attack wasn't that vicious. But you would think they did that on SmackDown this week to explain why they're not on SmackDown next week or maybe even at the Rumble, which I would love. I would love if Roman won on his own in that 4-way and there wasn't interference from Jimmy and Solo and the usual fucking nonsense. But anyway, they recap or rather hype the contract signing for next week with Roman Reigns, Styles, Knight, Orton, and they call Nick Aldis, Matt Camp does, a threat to Roman's title run. Not in the sense that he's going to beat Roman for the championship, but just says that he's not backing down to the bloodline. He's not backing down from the bloodline, and that he's going to stick it to him every chance that he gets, because they're going to try to bully Nick Aldis and try to manipulate him. He said, nah, to steal a catchphrase from LA Knight, and he's being a pretty stern authority figure right now in SmackDown, which is great. So I like the fact they brought that up. Pretty standard stuff here, per usual, from the SmackDown Lowdown. I like the Grayson Waller interview. We got to hear from Santos, Humberto Carrillo. I like that little faction. The Isla Dawn and Alba Fire stuff was typical WWE written nonsense for like what they write for them in their promos, but at least it didn't explain anything, but at least we got to hear from them before their tag team title opportunity next week, which was completely undeserved. I like the team, but that came out of completely fucking nowhere. Anyway, thank you guys for checking out my review. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Have an awesome one, guys. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.